Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. Love is Blind. I don't know why I said it like that. Love is Blind. Let's watch.
So it's been, that's been tough.
Yeah.
Honestly.
My friends they're just like, their first impression already is like, oh, this girl is dating a guy that we know. Apparently they hung out like the Friday before she left on Sunday. And apparently the guy's like still texting her and trying to see her and stuff. And he lives in the freaking building that we moved into. Like, yeah.
All right, so to catch you up, Dave and Lauren are reviewing having revealed to people in their lives about their relationship. And I will say that Dave's account of what he thinks his sister's reaction to be is promising. He is not terrified. It sounded like she discovered it not in the way that he was hoping. So it's possible that Dave was overblowing her negative reaction. So there's that possibility. I can't know. And I think I hypothesized that as a possibility, right? It's like we're just going off of Dave's interpretation. But his reaction is still notable. It's indicating something. I don't know what it is. But anyway, now he's talking about his friends. And he's talked about how people at work and his friends are already talking. And he said that the information sort of got out there and it blossomed. Like suddenly everyone knew, and he's upset about it. And I mean, I guess on one level he's not saying this, and they might edit it out if he were, that they're under contract to limit the amount of people that they tell. They can certainly tell people close to them, but they can't publicly announce it on social media. So I don't know if he's talking about that. Anyway, he is upset or worried about, or he sounds like he's hurt that people are, he believes anyway, assuming that they know what he wants or that their relationship isn't real or something. But then he starts talking about a friend and a different woman or something, and I've lost the thread, so let's rewind that.
That's been tough.
Yeah.
Honestly.
My friends they're just like, their first impression already is like, oh, this girl is dating a guy.
My friends, their first impression, oh, this girl is dating a guy we know. So he's saying that my friends are suspicious of Lauren or something. I think that's what we're hearing.
Guy that we know. Apparently they hung out like the Friday before she left on Sunday. And apparently the guy's like still texting her and trying to see her. And
yeah, so then there's this quick, let me go back further.
they hung out like the Friday before she left on Sunday. And apparently the guy's like still texting her and trying to see her and stuff. And he lives in the freaking building that we moved into. Like, yeah. It sounds like it was some miscommunication maybe, or just some like non-communication on her part, where like she thought it was over, but like didn't end it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just dumb and I am not comprehending what is happening, or if that was a bad edit. They forgot to include a little sentence there that would have helped me understand what's happening. But I don't know who he's referring to. Do you know who he's talking about? I went back further to see if I missed some detail that would inform what he's talking about here. So I have no idea. I think the gist of it sounds like he's concerned about people making assumptions about him and about Lauren, and he is expressing that. I think that's the overall gist of what he's saying.
Thought they were still together. Maybe the guy is exaggerating or trying to like get on TV, but I don't know. It's one of those things like, do I believe her? Do I believe this guy / my friends? The shitty and like tricky thing for me has been like, my sister knows now.
So she heard that Lauren has had a boyfriend going into this. Yeah, I'm not sure. Is it that is he talking about one of the other couples that I've heard from my wife about that were on the show and apparently were edited out, possibly because the guy was just coming on the show to be on the show and they weren't legitimately there. And he's worried that because that information has gotten out there, and gotten to his friends and also to his sister that it's even more fuel for them to talk shit about him. And I don't know what they're saying. If they're just concerned and they want information or they want to talk with him because they're worried about him, then that's one thing. But if they're just like assuming things, because that's the way he is framing it, is it sounds like he believes they're just assuming things and running with it and being a jerk to him. But it's possible that he's just not used to having this kind of scenario where he steps out of line of expectations and they're concerned and maybe surprised and maybe presumptuous, but they're not being jerks about it. And he just wants everyone to go away, even though that's not realistic. So I don't know which one it is. And I'm guessing we won't find out.
She heard that like Lauren has had a boyfriend going into this. My sister, like
and then he says that they've heard, and my sister has heard that Lauren had a boyfriend going into this. Did we miss something? Because she said she was casually dating someone prior and I'm guessing broke up before, leaving for the pods, or informed the guy that, well, I don't know. She described it not as she literally said it wasn't a boyfriend. So the way he's describing it is she was involved with someone in a committed relationship the day she shipped off for the pods. That's what he just said. So yeah, if his sister has learned that, then that would be concerning. But that's not even what happened. So for him to, what did he say?
TV. But I don't know. It's one of those things like, do I believe her? Do I believe this guy / my friends? The shitty and like tricky thing for me has been like,
oh, so is he saying he's hearing rumors that Lauren did have a boyfriend? I think that's what he's saying, is that he doesn't necessarily know if Lauren is being truthful about not having a boyfriend going into the pods. Okay. Is that what I'm hearing? If that's what I'm hearing, And it's interesting because I say in my head that Lauren doesn't seem like the type, and so I'm skeptical of that. But how, there's no way to know if someone would do something like that or not based on watching a show like this. So who knows? Maybe we'll find out.
She kept being like, what else do you need from me? What else? Like all this kind of stuff. And she was just like, I'm literally going to cry saying this. She was like, people are going to really want to give you opinions and like give Dave opinions over the next few weeks. So like my opinion right now is like, I love you and I trust you. And I was like, I needed to hear that from like someone.
Yeah, that shows strength and maturity from her and self-awareness and vulnerability that she could say that. And that's at the core of what they're talking about right now. So I'm glad that she's able to see that. And I'm glad she has her mom in her corner like that. By the way, she talked about how her dad is very traditional and will have a problem with the two of them living together. And Dave is concerned that I think he has a traditional mindset, which isn't bad necessarily, that he needs to make sure that from the beginning he's not going against what her father wants, which might not be possible. But Dave didn't indicate this directly, but he was like, wait, so your dad doesn't know that we're living together right now? We have to address that. So it was a brief conversation about that. By the way, another hypothesis that I've been wondering about regarding the death in his family and how the 3 left family members reacted moving forward that could result in some of the things we've heard from Dave is that Dave might have traditionally, up until this point, been avoiding having any kind of close relationship with a woman because for himself and maybe for the family, it would be interpreted as him replacing his mom. And that'll happen for sure. Death and loss and grief, again, particularly when it's complicated and particularly when people going into the loss don't have the resources internally and relationally to deal with all the things that happen, of which there are many, then it's common to have long-lasting odd effects from that loss. So again, there's no way to know, but there's a possibility someone in his shoes would want to prove to their family that even if the family doesn't need him to do this, that he's going to show how much he loves his mom and how loyal he is to his mom, particularly if going into it, you feel guilty for having disappointed your mom in not having integrity. And by the way, he said, if my mom were still alive, she would definitely have a problem with us living together before we got married. And he also said something like, none of this would probably be possible if my mom was alive, because she was much more controlling than my sister is. He didn't use those words, but it was essentially that. But anyway, so some people in his shoes will unconsciously or consciously do it independently, or because the whole system needs them to do this, that he won't date anyone seriously because that would be seen as an effort to replace the mom or to put the mom behind him. That's another thing that'll happen to people in grief. And sometimes it's necessary, right? But if it's rigid and long-term and harms people, then obviously it's not a good idea. But people might, for a time, sacrifice some of their needs as a way of showing to themselves or to their community or their people or to the person who died, if they believe that that person is watching. They will sacrifice themselves as a way of showing how much they care. There are ways of sacrificing that are baked into cultures and religions. You might be able to identify some. And those, if done in a way that cares about the individuals, in a way that allows them to break from tradition if necessary, then I'm all for it. Without that, though, sometimes people, or without it being sufficient, sometimes people will do what I'm suggesting as a possibility in his scenario, where he would avoid that. And then in order to actually get that need met for romance and connection with someone outside of the system, he would have to do it secretly by going on a reality TV show separately, without the ability of the family to step in his mind or in reality, or a combination of both. And the other thing that he talked about was that as soon as he talked about coming on the show, the sister looked up all these articles and was cautioning him, which wouldn't be a bad idea necessarily, as long as it was done in a way that acknowledged that he can do what he wants, But one of the things that he said that his sister brought up was that the edit can cause problems for you, that you can end up being canceled or being attacked. It can ruin your life. And you just can't know how the audience or how the editors are going to deal with you. So that's another reason why you shouldn't do this. And what I would say is, yeah, that's why if someone came to me and asked me if it's advisable to go on a show like this, I would definitely propose this among other things that could absolutely happen. And the thing that I would emphasize is, you believe that you would not be a villain. No one believes that, or at least very few people would believe that, because none of these, or very few of the individuals that are revealed or are attacked by the mob of the bullies and the mob of online is, when they go on the show, the vast majority do not think that that's going to happen. Now, they might just be unaware of how bad their behavior is, but in all likelihood, a major factor is they just underestimate the irrationality of the crowds. They might think, well, I have some sharp edges to my personality and I'm okay with that. We could imagine Dave's. And if you don't have experience with reality television, and particularly the online discourse around reality television, then you would have no idea just how toxic, I don't use that word lightly and I don't use that word often, just how toxic the online community can be. Not always, of course, but it definitely can be. And it's, in my experience, there's at least a segment of the audience that is almost always toxic and unfair and hurtful and bullying and weird and obsessive and wrong and So that would be a major caution. At the very least, what I would say is that if you do go on the show, you need to have an approach on how you deal with social media, how you deal with comments, because people are going to come after you, even if you're a hero. There's always a segment of the population that will hate anybody on the show. So you have to have an approach. Maybe you don't look at your comments. Maybe you make your Instagram private or whatever. You got to have a plan. I say all this to point out another possibility in line with what I was saying in a previous episode, in which it's possible that the way this plays out for him, if he is an underfunctioner with overfunctioners in his life, that the damage to his life and his career, the bullying that he experiences, that he is in all likelihood experiencing right now, is felt by the family system as yet another example of how he is incompetent. He could say, yeah, my sister was right. I shouldn't have come on the show. And I'm incompetent. I'm dumb. I need to rely on my sister's control and my dad's overprotection, because I clearly, when I took an independent action, I messed it all up, and how horrible that is. I could imagine at the very least that there is just an onslaught of bullying that's happening to him, and I think that's actually happening because it's typical, and I've heard a couple things that might indicate that, which is just completely wrong and immoral that the audience would do that. So for him, it could be for him and his sister and his mom another nail in the coffin, keeping him within the dysfunctional dynamic of underfunctioner that could mean that he will never do anything like this again. And the family will remain stuck in that place of complicated grief that began when the mom died.
Yeah, I'm a fragile state right now.
Yeah, I know. Same. But again, I feel like what we've done this whole time is like we've stuck to it.
Okay. So we are seeing a situation in which she is crying and talking about being fragile. And on one hand, he has his hand on her shoulder this whole time and is being intimate and supportive and warm in that way. That communicates a lot, right? His face isn't, on the other hand, his face isn't exhibiting that warmth, but she might be feeling the warmth from his contact with his hand. It goes a long way. And also, on the other hand, when she's talking about this, he doesn't, seemingly from my perspective through the camera lens, he doesn't seem to be increasing the warmth, which I think a lot of people would do in that situation as she starts to cry, as she especially says, I'm in a fragile state. So that's one thing. Who knows what that means? On the other hand, he's listening and is allowing her to fill up that space, and he's not interrupting or diverting or something. So that's on this end. Then when there's a lull, he says same, which could be true, but he's not showing it. That doesn't necessarily mean he's not. I would imagine that he very much is telling the truth, and it is accurate that he's like, same, I feel like I'm in a fragile place too, but he has a hard time really saying that. So the way that it looks in the edit is that he doesn't have any empathy, is the point. But there's signs that he does, and there's signs that she would receive the warmth, that there is an indication of warmth. And then I guess on the non-warm side, he quickly starts talking in a way that's in, it's in the category of what they're talking about, but it is in a more intellectualized manner and is not, at the very least, for a time focused on her and her feelings and what's going on with her. So there are some good signs and some, I don't want to say concerning signs, but some signs that, well, what are they a sign of? Well, I'm just fitting a lot of things into my working hypothesis, which is purely on speculation of even that I would know what I'm seeing in an edited TV show, but that all of this is new to him. He has enough awareness and enough experience to be able to exhibit some empathy, strained through his, I think, avoidance tendencies of emotion. So it's sneaking through that, and he is doing great in relation to what he would normally do and what maybe his family does. I don't know. So that's a positive, but it's needing a lot of work, and he needs more experience with these emotions and understanding them, and understanding what to do in a scenario like this, which I would imagine that Lauren would appreciate at least a little bit more focus, like more questions or just more space, or I hate to see it when you're suffering, or more warmth, right? An increase in warmth of, to me, I was just hoping that he would hug her or reach out with his other hand for her hand or something. I would imagine that would be appreciated. I don't know. So that would be, I think, a really easy thing to do to, one, show you care, and to enact your own caring that you want to enact, So there's that. But I don't, I would not characterize this as a lack of warmth, especially compared to other exhibitions on the show of other things that we've seen on the show that, at least from the surface, indicate a difficulty perceiving any sort of warmth. He's got the hand and he's listening in his face. So it's a mix. All right. Well, if you ever find someone impersonating me, if you could please email us through the website. That's the sure way to contact us, and let us know so that we can get rid of that person impersonating us, me. Sometimes it'll be a Google YouTube account that will have my name, or it'll have Psychology Seattle, and it'll have my face. So watch out for that. They're usually trying to sell you something, crypto or something. Or if someone is taking my content and posing as me or posting my content on other people's channels, it's not usually a big deal. But if you can let us know, if you ever come across something like that, let us know. And don't assume that others have contacted me. A lot of people will email me and say, I found someone impersonating you. I'm sure you've received a lot of emails. Most of the time, that's the only person that has emailed me. So, I think it's just enough of a pain in the ass to go to the website and da-da-da. So if you're so motivated, then that would really help me out, because it is a big fear of mine that someone will be scammed or harmed, and at least for a period of time, they will think that it's me that's doing that, and that is just the worst. Also, along these lines, in the future particularly, but even today, there are deepfake technologies that can make it so that it would be fairly easy to have AI be trained on my voice and the way that I move and talk in a video, and that can be used against people as well. So, watch out for stuff like that, and look for content and communication that is within the confirmed accounts, right? If it's an account on Instagram or on YouTube that seems a little bit off, that's one clue. Anyway, so watch out there, not just for deep fakes of me, but of everybody, because eventually, and it's already beginning, there will be bots that will use AI to do this, and it'll just become, this constant wave. The way we used to deal with spam. Imagine that every day you're getting a video from what looks to be like your mom asking you for money or something. Just imagine how anyway. So keep all that in mind and take care of yourself in that way and all the others, because you deserve it. You really, really do.